Hello and welcome to This Contains Garlic. You are here with your hosts, Georgia Garlic
Mark Garlic.
and we are back for episode 14. A little bit late. We've been a bit late the past couple of weeks. In
Um,
fact, we're sat in literally cardboard boxes right now.
we're moving. Yay!
Okay, right. I'm glad you're excited about it, but Mark always says that when we're moving, when I get the resealable bags out and start like piling things frantically in to make sure we're nice and organised. But yeah, it's been a busy few weeks,
Yeah.
quite mentally draining also. So I guess sometimes when you have to go and sit down and do a podcast, it just doesn't end up getting done. But we're
Yeah.
here. We had a little bit of a week off.
Yeah, packing boxes and doing all that
How many
kind of
boxes
stuff.
do you think you've packed, Mark?
I haven't packed any
Boxes.
boxes, but what I have done is project managed.
Project manage. Exactly
Yeah,
what have we
just
project managed? You've changed the
I
Sky
oversight,
broadband.
oversight,
Um,
general planning,
General planning. Can you
and
tell anyone that plan?
quality control.
Okay, so did you book the removal men?
Kind
No,
of.
absolutely no way did you book anything in this whole move.
Yeah, but I delegated tasks down to
I'd love to know what your delegated tasks were, barring
yeah,
like literally
packing.
buying. We finally bought an electric screwdriver.
Well, which I did use. I put
I
together
did not.
I was very proud of myself. I put together a double bed.
It was actually a king size bed,
Oh, so there
so
you go, even better.
don't hold yourself back. But he did put it up in a room where you can't get it out, so now
Yeah,
we're a bit
I did it
screwed.
on purpose. I did that on purpose for our wonderful landlords.
Yeah, best wishes to those twats. Anyway, today, today the Garlics are going to talk you through getting back on track, plateaus, all that comes with life stops. It's probably quite
Yeah.
relevant for us as well currently.
Mm,
Um, we do frequently get asked via social media or on email or about how to really manage. You've had a lot of time off. I guess you could say time off in the sense of you maybe just haven't focused in
yeah,
on
priorities have shifted,
your priorities
maybe.
have shifted. It could be
Oh, I mean, COVID was a huge hurdle for some people where, lifestyles had changed quite a bit and certain things priorities were shifted around.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely
So,
had a direct impact on the way people view things currently. But I think, it could be getting back on track. It could be short term. It could be, oh, I've fucked it up over the weekend and I've got a goal and I haven't, or it could be I literally just haven't done anything or had the will to do anything
yeah,
about, looking after my health for years. Now, I have to say it's very common and it happens to the best of us. As we always say,
mm,
you can never always be on track with everything,
mm,
and when priorities, need to be, hierarchy of needs need to be adjusted, sometimes things do fall by the way.
yeah.
And that is very, very normal to happen. So I think first things first.
Um, yeah, it doesn't define you as a person or doesn't define the process or the, goal that you're trying to achieve. Like Georgia said, it is very common for things to change, life to change. There's so many things that could affect your overall adherence. And the main thing is not to beat yourself up too much about it, because these things do happen. And you can only control a certain amount of things, and a lot of the things that we tend to stress about can sometimes be outside of our sphere of influence. So
Mm.
it's it's not allowing your internal narrative to beat you up about it and start that snowball effect of negative thoughts. There are hiccups do happen, but it doesn't define you as a person. You're not a failure. You haven't failed in a sense if it's like a
I
one-off.
do think that like it very much depends on you as an individual, like what your life circumstances are as to why you need to get. A lot of people always say they've fallen off the wagon or they're getting,
Mm,
they need to get back on track and all of these things. And I think it comes down to like what is the aim of the game
yeah.
anyway. And I don't even want to necessarily say goals because, as we always say that like, I think I've probably said this in every single podcast, looking after your health should be seen, as a way of life,
That
not
is the goal.
something.
you
It
know?
is, but I think also it's very. I personally think that I probably shouldn't say this
Yeah.
because I am a coach and my whole job is obviously coaching individuals through this. But it's not 100% of your day. It is not something that you want consuming your brain 24/7. It's something that
Mm-mm.
should effectively accompany your
Yeah,
lifestyle in
compliment you.
general.
Yeah.
And if your life is potentially it's very different for those that maybe don't have kids, maybe don't have, as many responsibilities as what others have in their life. Maybe, you've got a very solid job and maybe you've lost your job or you've been made redundant. All of these things happen. And actually, when it comes to I don't know, sticking to a calorie target or making sure my training is progressive. Actually, what's more important is like the baby steps in that. Is just being the fact that one, you are consciously aware of potentially over a month that you have eaten vaguely okay, do you know what I mean? And the fact that maybe you're just going to exercise to clear your mind, you're not going
Mm.
there for a structured program. There are all of these things which do come into play when I guess it doesn't always revolve around having a goal. Now, we always say that if you want to get somewhere, then obviously you need a direct target as to how you're going to reach it. But
Mm.
life isn't always just that one end goal. It's always about mini goals, all achieving, attainable ones where you can sort of tick them off and work yourself through them. But I also think for the majority of people, and I'm certain the majority of people listening to this, your your health is very, very important. We all know this, but we always forget it. And I think that it's very easy to, when work's consuming potentially, things are a bit tough, maybe relationships are not going completely well, to immediately assume that everything's complete shit show when actually, like, what are you even really comparing to, in my opinion? Like, what if for example you sat there and you're incredibly unhealthy and then that's a different thing. You maybe gone to the doctors said to you, like, you're on the verge of potentially getting diabetes. That's a common example. That's what I got told when I was very, very overweight. I went to the doctor for something completely random and they said, like, you're on the verge of getting diabetes. Is that a wake up call? Of course it is. For a lot of people it's like, oh fuck, I really don't want a lifelong medical situation to deal with. And that's a wake up call. But for your average person, like, we don't really have wake up calls. You know what I mean? It's just you're either interested or you just go by and you don't necessarily think about it all the time. And I think getting back on track, sometimes you feel like you need to strive for perfection when actually it's really just doing like very small steps. I don't know, do you agree? Like,
Um, I mean, yeah, I do agree.
no, I
I'm just
don't.
thinking. I think it can sometimes come down to paralysis from analysis, where we all focus on trying to be perfect and hitting every single target consistently, time and time again, and then you know there's so much that it tends to overwhelm people where they feel like the goal is unachievable or the lifestyle habits or self-care habits are unachievable because of X, Y, and Z. Um, and generally, people lose sight of the overall benefit of just moving your body and eating a nutrient dense diet that it has for their mental health and their physical health, because at the end of the day we as an industry glorify a certain look, and if you don't look that certain way, even though you're doing your self-care habits, you feel shit about yourself because you're
Mm.
comparing yourself to a person that has obviously got abs and is like super hench or
Yeah,
very.
but I just still think, like, I've commonly done this experiment on public transport, where whenever I'm on it, I like to, like, I sit away from my phone and I watch how other people use their phones. And I know it sounds a bit nosy, but I've watched now countless people of all different age ranges scrolling on their phones on social media, and nothing stops it apart from
food.
potentially a half naked individual.
Food
And it's
and
actually like these are,
abs.
it could be a girl that sat on the bus, which is maybe 18 years old, to like a woman that sat on the bus that's also, 60 years old. We are so engaged by, I guess, what other people are doing that we do lose track of what the fuck we're doing in our lives. And I think it's really important that
And everybody thinks that to get back on track, they need to do absolutely everything to be back on track, in quotation marks. So I have to wait until I can meal prep and go to the gym 4 times a week and do 10,000 steps and so on and so forth. When, you know, knowing when to swim and knowing when to tread water proverbially is always a good idea, because there are moments in your life where you might not be able to meal prep your food, for example, because you're traveling with work, but you can still get your workouts in. That essentially is getting back on track,
I
or
think, in my
staying on
opinion,
track
it's
if
the it's avoiding an all or nothing approach.
yeah,
When it
that
comes
is
to getting
very
back on
true.
track, you might have had 2 years off, could have had 3 years off, could have not stepped foot. Like, I've coached a few people this year who literally for 3 years have done absolutely nothing. Like, not in the sense that they've done a lot otherwise, in the sense if we're talking health and well-being, they've done nothing. They've not been, they've not moved, they've not gone to the gym, they've not,
Yeah.
there's nothing. And I guess that, time flies when we're all just doing clearly not much. But, it's quite, I guess, that whole approach where you're like, right, I need to get this shit sorted. And then going, right, on Monday, I'll start with all of these things. And I guess, being very biased here, that's where obviously when somebody wants a coach or to coach for a period of time, that's where our jobs really do come into play, as to getting them started with a good structure. However, most people don't necessarily need or want to have a coach or feel the necessity to have a coach in their life. And so they do this thing of like, number one, you might try and get other people involved with you. So it could be like, right, I could say to Mark, right, Mark, as of Monday, we're not going to eat this X, Y, and Z. We're going to go and do this and make sure you've done that. When actually you should probably be just focusing on what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think, if you've done nothing for years or months on end, the last thing you need to be doing is all of
It's
it.
everything. Yeah. You want to just pick your battles and self-diagnose, or not, no, self-analyze yourself, and know what your advantages are and what your disadvantages are, and start with your strong points. If you really like exercise, or walking, or any form of movement, maybe start there before leaning into nutrition, or vice versa. But at the end of the day, it does come down to just actually starting and applying yourself where you're comfortable, because for you to get back on track, you actually need to action something, and that could be mental, but most of the time it is mental. Sorry.
No, but I think there's also a physical action that needs to happen, in the sense that you need to physically, mentally you're telling yourself you're going, but you need to actually physically action it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
there
yeah.
are two things that come combined here.
Yeah,
It's
hand
not
in hand.
it's not physical. I need to see physical results in the sense, but it's actually just physically actioning something, like
Yeah.
actually going for a walk, or like actually doing what you're saying. But it does happen more often than not, where you end up in a cycle of, I'm going to start and I don't start, and then I'm going to start, I'm not starting. You know what I mean? And you
Yeah,
end
you
up
just go round
literally
and round in
doing.
circles. You go the time wasted procrastinating. It could be time slowly applying and practicing self-care habits so that you can get better and better at them
I don't
over
even say you
time.
don't necessarily have to be better. So I always like,
Well, not
life is,
necessarily. Okay, maybe I
yeah,
take that.
like
Not
life
so
is
much
not.
better, but after repetition and finding value in it, then it
It
moves
comes a point
away
though where, like,
to
as a human, and I will say this because I've gone through this myself as an individual, where there comes to a point where it's like, how much more can you really progress? Do you know what I mean? How much more are you willing to, like, depending on what your goal really is? And my life goal isn't a fucking goal to do with the gym and this and that. It's to have an all-rounder goal with my whole lifestyle. So that's like health, and my nutrition and my training is a small percentage of that. Work takes up 95% of my life, but I want to be able to have a fulfilled life, off of many different variables. So it does come down to the fact that, like, I don't necessarily believe you always need to, I don't know, carry on pushing for progress, when actually if you self-analyzed yourself as a human, sometimes that's probably the last thing
I
you
get,
need to
yeah,
be
I mean,
focusing
pushing for
on.
progress is, very,
I think just doing something,
yeah.
on a day-to-day basis, or
Yeah, people
through.
shouldn't be pushing for progress. People should be pushing for consistency. And that's, I think, where some people get demoralized and then go off track, is the constant need to feel like you need to be progressing when the vast majority of people actually struggle with just being consistent and enjoying the process.
Yeah, but also, can we just the process? It makes it sound
Okay.
so miserable. You know why I say that? Because it sounds like a fucking printing shop where they literally send it off and there's the process, and it's
Okay, well, what
it's
would you
just
call it
not.
then?
I would say it's
Your
just your
life.
fucking life,
Yeah, your
like,
life.
literally. Your life runs however the fuck it wants to be. It's never
Yeah.
linear. Things get thrown at us, how I've been the past couple of months. I've been completely thrown off on so many things due to my own mental health capacity, things going on in my life, and I know deep down I can't necessarily be focusing my whole energy onto going into the gym and hitting fucking numbers and being like a fucking henchman. Yeah, I have goals in the sense of overall I want to keep myself physically fit and well,
Yeah.
but right now in the past, 3 to 6 months, like fuck, all I've been doing is just trying to keep my mental health
Yeah.
alive. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
otherwise you get into a position where everything just feels
Yeah, it
unbearable,
goes from like physical progress to I need to do this because I know that once I've done it, I feel better mentally.
Yeah, and I think that I'm not doing it to be like fucking on stage. Do you know what I mean? To do it for anybody other than myself. Like, I know that movement and moving my body in the way that I like to move it, which is obviously lifting weights and doing the odd, conditioning stuff, is the way that I mentally process feeling like shit.
Mm.
And so I know that if I do that on a day, which I obviously do frequently, where I don't feel necessarily mentally that stable, that
Mm.
if I go and exercise, I'm going to feel a lot better in a sense of clarity. It's not solving anything, it's just giving yourself that time where it's
Mm.
dedicated to something that helps you.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, if you are somebody that, you've had 3 years off, or potentially you've had a child, that's a common thing. You've had a child, everything's changed.
Mm.
I guess you just got to understand that, you've things do change, and sometimes we always hold on to, like, I've probably been quite guilty of doing this, where you hold on to what like 5 years ago used to be
Yeah.
like, and it's like,
Everybody's living in their high school years, pretty much.
no, I
Just,
definitely don't live in my high school
but
years.
there's that stereotypical where everybody like,
Well, for example, like, if we're
yeah,
being brutally honest, we went from being full-time, coaches in high-end gyms in London, of training very well-known people and dealing with people that, most people, would probably idolize to some degree, to
mm,
then, well, a lot of people would, Mark. That's why they're well-known. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, to then taking ourselves to Cape Town, away from what we didn't necessarily like, what we'd created in London, due to the fact that it was straining our mental health, like, big time. We took ourselves to Cape Town and opened up a gym. And then, the gym did exceptionally well. But what didn't do so well is throwing in a fucking global pandemic, where it literally questioned everybody's business and everybody's minds as to what the
mm.
fuck was going on. And so we left, obviously, throughout that time, when you're away from family, when you're away from friends, when you're away from what you're used
I
to,
guess once we pivoted onto an online business, you're kind of
it's
sitting
hard,
in Cape Town. You feel like you're missing out, not missing out, but it's quite an isolated tour. Like a lot of our clients from Johannesburg would say, like, for your professional career, you go to Cape Town for it to die, basically, because it's
I don't think that was even a thing. I've never really bothered about what
outside
other
of
people really
tourism.
say.
Yeah, but like it's not.
But,
We
it's
felt very isolated, not isolated in the sense, but we felt very out of the mix.
like our business did well, but it comes to a point where you don't necessarily know whether or not you can grow it to the extent that you're at max capacity. But is this, I always do this thing, is like, is this it? Do you know what I mean? And unfortunately, that's the way my brain works. Is this it? And I know it sounds, we had the most beautiful space and the most like, and we did it 10 out of 10 times perfect. We always did. But comes to a point where I guess you're in also Africa, and there is something to say being British, moving to Africa. There's a lot of things you're not necessarily aware of, but I don't necessarily think, I think going online as a business completely changed everything. We were online. In fact, we were probably one of the first people to be online years ago. We used to give, meal plans to people online. We used to give, and it was really, if in the grand scheme of things, we used to get people great results, but it was really a half-assed job because our main job was to be training people face to face and to coach them face to face. And I think when we went completely online, you're then so heightened to what else is going on online the whole bloody time that it doesn't do very well for your mental health. You've really got to have a very strong setup in your mind to feel like you can really work through this and not be fazed by something.
Yeah, because you're presented with constant comparison, which can and will, to a certain degree, whether you are cognizant of it or not, is going to have a negative impact on your mental health, and how you kind of value and see yourself and speak to yourself with that internal narrative. And when you see and everything to a certain degree is always out of context, and everybody's highlight reel. But when you're undergoing your personal journey and you're maybe not feeling the process, and you haven't been to the gym for a couple of days, and you haven't had a nutritious meal, and you're always constantly being presented by somebody who's very anal about their appearance and so on and so forth, and is always super consistent, then making you want to get back on track. It starts to then make it a lot more challenging when you're faced with
but I think going back to us as a business running, like, when you're not necessarily, like, as a business, you're not directly comparing yourself to like an individual and what they're eating. You're heightened to have to be very, very emotionally intelligent to effectively work your way through everything and see whether that's realistic or not. And as a business, if you see, like, we grew a lot online throughout COVID, but we had to do a fuck ton of adjustment. Do you know what I mean? It's more than what people think it is at the end of the day. And I think your whole aim of the game slightly changes. And I think it all happened really quickly. So I think for us, like, being on track, throughout, and all of these things wasn't really something that we massively had a focus on as such. And, as we say, going online and not directly comparing yourself, but going and seeing what everybody else is doing 24/7. And as a business, when you take that leap for like social media, where you go from being like a person to a business, there is fuck tons you need to learn, and like so much that goes on that if you're not switched on to it, then good luck. Like, and it becomes where you just feel like, oh my God, do we have to do this all the fucking time? Like, is this really what is, we really wanted to run this business as purely educational and, and stuff like that. But, social media does push you in directions, which means that sometimes what you thought was on track is not fucking on track. And this happens in like so many factors in your life. It can happen in relationships, it can happen in friendships, it can happen in every sense, your workplace. And I just think that whole understanding your common your what is going on in your environment around you is probably the biggest thing to analyze first off. Like, I'm very good at it because I'm very emotionally aware of things, but I know that many of our clients struggle to understand that how can you continually make progress every single week and not have weeks where it's not going to happen, or months where it's just not going to happen. But at least what you're doing is, a lot of clients we retain for years on end. Like, and I guess that's a great thing for us because you build amazing relationships with people. But, they're the people that just consistently, I don't necessarily mean daily, but consistently over a period of length of time have been consciously aware of, things. Sometimes, of course, every client we have, not every client, but a lot of clients, they'll fall off track, and, you're there, do you know what I mean, to effectively say it's all okay. But it's okay to still have something like a coach or to be but just be ticking off
Yeah, I mean,
variables.
you don't. I had this conversation with one of our clients the other day. It's sometimes you just got to do things that you don't necessarily want to do. Like you might not feel in the mood to exercise and calorie count or eat a nutritious diet, but sometimes you've got to just set that aside and know that to get the ball rolling, there needs to be some level of action. And there are going to be days, weeks, and months where you don't necessarily want to do it. And it's the people that turn up and do it regardless of how they feel that can
Yeah.
essentially proverbially stay on track
But
more
I also,
often than not.
do you know what I hate? As I hate this whole on track thing
Yeah, no,
because
it's
it,
very
I'm very like anti all of everything to do with the industry. I might know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of nutrition and training stuff, but I literally am so anti with the way the whole industry works in
yeah, it
general.
like self feeds itself into
Like, what the
like
fuck? Like, do you think that literally 7 billion people, there's probably way more now in population, are, how many percentage of those are right now, whilst we're recording this podcast, thinking, like, oh fuck, I need to make sure that I'm lifting 5 kilos heavier on my fucking this? Or, no,
no, it's a
there's
very small,
literally a
very
small
very
percentage
small
of people.
percentage.
And that's why in this industry you have a niche, because you then narrow it into that niche to then be able to help those people that are, but it's not everybody. And this is what I always say, is you're not always going to be that person you see or
Yeah,
introduce.
and like most people don't like exercising or doing any of that stuff in general. So then to assume that for you to be on track in quotation marks, that you need to do a vast majority of things which are totally against maybe your character, maybe there's socio-economic situations, maybe it's a cultural thing. There's so many individual varying influences that comparing yourself consistently to other people or having a level of expectation on yourself can be very counterproductive to finding out what you enjoy, finding out value for yourself so that
Yeah, I mean, I would say that probably the most like the people that we coach for the longest see the most reward. Now, the reason I say that is because we've said this before, but our industry runs via time lengths, and I appreciate that's also an affordability factor, pay for X, get this for X weeks. But it's always this thing as like, okay, you've got a coach, everything's going really fucking well, and then it ends. And then people just think that they just stop. And it's like, well, the whole aim of our jobs is to educate you on just literally habits that you can ingrain into your life to then be able to, at some form or another, continue or reduce, increase, whatever your life might do. And I don't know, it's that whole thing of like working in like 8 to 12 week spans where I guess I think our clients that have trained with us for years, who have consistently seen it as like an investment into their well-being, like, and then have seen the most reward because
yeah.
not only do they learn, but they also have that understanding that it does take time. Like, you can't expect to know everything within a short period of time, or to, you know, we don't ever want to feel like we're giving somebody a job when you sign up. You know what I mean? Where you're like, oh, fuck, I've really got to think about this. But there has got to be some kind of switch on to some degree. You know what I mean? Where you're mentally connected to what you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
But I think that, the ones that have coached with us the longest period of time, like, their lives have gone up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
Things have been narrowed
A
in, things
plateau
have
here
been
or there.
widened. Like,
Yeah.
it's, and actually going on to that, like, what you do in a plateau, like, we obviously, a lot of the time when it comes to you either gaining or losing weight, this is probably the most common factor that we get approached with, is the fact that you've done all of this and you've not made any progress for X amount of weeks or months, and now you think, what's the point? So getting over a plateau, I guess, if you're going into the science stuff, if we talk about a weight loss goal, if you're sat there, and I think it's very easy to think you haven't made progress in anything when, like, say, for example, a scale doesn't move, or you don't think your clothes are fitting exactly the way that they should, or you can't fit into something yet, that you immediately think you've plateaued. Well, I'd just like to say that there's a big difference between plateauing, where you need adjustments, and then mentally getting over a barrier. Because scientifically, if you lose weight, your body requires less energy, which means if you've plateaued for say 6 weeks or whatever, there's no movement on a scale and there's no movement in the way you feel or look or whatever, and your goal is weight loss, then statistically you would have to obviously think about how you can either adjust targets to some degree to keep that progress going. But more often than not, we get people that are like, I've done this for 2 weeks and I've seen no progress. And it's like, it's 2 weeks. Like, what do you expect? At the end of the day, you're not going to make much progress in 2 weeks in anything. You can't even form a new habit in 2 weeks. You can make conscious decisions, but you can't make effort as such to actually see direct progress that's going to impact your life long term. It's just not possible. So, at the end of the day, if you have plateaued and it's only been for a very short period of time, what we'll always say is just stay adherent, stay consistent with it. But if you've plateaued for a longer period of time and you're doing everything correct and everything right, then obviously that's when you look to potentially adjust targets, keep things going, all of the above, because you end up...
Yeah, you end up just over consuming yourself with negative thoughts of constantly wanting to progress. And the reality is people need to focus less on outcomes and focus more on the inputs that they're doing to get those outcomes. Yes, it's great to obviously see progress and see the scale come down and get leaner and get stronger, but it's more the journey than the destination that people need to focus on. It's the self-care habits that give you a fortified mental health, give you a fortified body, that people need to start focusing more on. And the more you enjoy those habits, those day-to-day habits, and find value in them, then the less you're going to want to focus necessarily on the actual destination. Because if you're doing everything in with the best intentions and being enlightened with your choices, then the outcome is going to come when it comes, and sometimes putting a duration on it is good, and sometimes it is bad, because most times life will throw you a curveball, and you might not be able to obtain those goals within that certain time frame. Should you feel disheartened about that? No, because at the end of the day, being able to do these self-care habits is the reward in its own right. Because I think we spend so much time staring a little bit too closely at the industry, obviously, because we work in it day in, day out with clients, trying to help them problem solve their lives, essentially, to help them progress and keep some form of consistent progression so that they're always happy.
Yeah, but I think that when it comes to, like, if you've got a phase where you've potentially plateaued, like, and you still want to see progress.
But if you're still doing all your self-care habits, are you plateauing?
The thing is, so this is what I
So
always know,
that's the
but
thing,
I've
is
just
like,
got
if
this
you
thing where,
think
like,
that you're
me and
if
you
you
think slightly
yeah, but
differently.
if you're training 5 times a week and you're eating a nutrient dense diet to a certain degree, still enjoying your life, enjoying your training, yes, the scale might not shift or X, Y, and Z. Are you plateauing? In my sense, not really, because you're still doing positive things to better your life. So you're not plateauing. If you were, in sense, plateauing, you'd be doing nothing.
Well, I think, I'd actually slightly agree, but I also disagree, because say, for example, you have been put in a situation where, like, your health is declining to some degree or another, and you're kind of given, in some sense, a lifeline for you to sort it out, or it's going to go tits up. Like, we all die at the end of the day, but, like, it's making sure that your life is as high quality
Yeah.
as you can for the time being that we're on this earth. And I kind of think that for a couple of years now, the trend that I have seen a lot of has been the fact that we are very sympathetic. And I'm talking this primarily off of weight loss, okay? And being of weight management, shall I say? I don't want to say weight loss, weight management. Something that as humans we are really struggling to do worldwide. Like, we seem to forget that we have like a massive obesity pandemic in the UK that's put strain on so many things, like the healthcare system, a number of different things, puts people's lives at, risk. And I think that with the rise of people sharing their opinions on things or their personal experiences and their journeys, we've ended up being a little bit too sympathetic to people not making, I guess, look, if you're an individual who's just a normal fucking, there's no issue. You might just want to look better in a dress for a wedding, or, I'm not talking to you, but I'm talking to the individuals who are sat there knowing deep down, because you do know, because I knew that I was really, really overweight, and I was very, it was brought up on every occasion, whether it was going onto an aeroplane and not feeling very comfortable sat into a seat, or, as I said in a previous podcast, being, when you're at school and they tell you to get in the scales in biology, or, all of these things are always constantly brought up. Family members, oh, she's put on weight, this, that, the other, oh, she doesn't look good. When you're fucking overweight, you're not oblivious to it, okay? Whether or not you do something about it is completely different. And obviously I can talk from a privileged position in the sense that I've already stepped over that hurdle to get to the position I'm in today. But I think we've become, as a society, very sympathetic to, nobody's the same, nobody's the same, nobody should be the fucking same. We shouldn't be comparing ourselves to other people's physiques, but we also should not be avidly advertising and encouraging people to be unhealthy and overweight. And I know this is a very controversial topic, and I know you're like, and as for you as a male, I don't,
police.
Somebody that was a bodybuilder, I don't think necessarily has the right to talk about this in controversial topic to this. You don't.
I've got no opinion.
You've got many opinions, Mark, but in the sense of, I can say this
as a straight white male, your opinions mean zero.
Didn't say that, but you haven't been through a mega fucking journey where you've been called hugely. You went and bodybuilt.
I was bullied at school, and I was ridiculed on a daily. Fatso. My nickname at school was fucking ugly.
You said that on a podcast, Mark.
Yeah, so
you were never put into a position, but from the general.
I was actually, when I was bullied at school for being overweight, and everyone would call me a fat fuck and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but Mark, you've never been on an extensive journey of weight loss. I've literally seen what you look like as a child, and I've seen what you fucking grew up to, and you turned all of that into steroid rage. So at the end of the day, you don't have much place to talk about. I personally think there's a huge difference between, you were not morbidly obese.
No, I was not.
I was morbidly obese.
I was fat at one stage.
Mark, everybody's got like the word puppy fat. Do you know what I mean? We're all fucking either ridiculed. Like, I say to my sister all the time, I'm like, it's actually awful how people were nicknamed at school over certain things. It's disgusting. But that's a very short period of your life. But something that takes you through into adult and work, working relationships is a fucking problem. And I think that we have been a lot more sympathetic with the rise of the fact that we shouldn't be judgmental on others. But if there is an issue with health, which we know, science is, we all know.
The reality is that people attach themselves to farm themselves into feeling better by telling everybody that it's going to be okay, when sometimes it pushes against a medical and scientific narrative, because people just want other people to feel included and accepted. And when they put out all these vibes, what do people generally do? Double tap a little heart. Oh my gosh, you're so amazing, and everybody feels warm and fuzzy inside. When in reality, that can be counterproductive to somebody and somebody's health.
Yeah, and I think that, and I think the complete opposite on the other side of the scale. Like, I don't think looking up to bodybuilders and people when you're at your leanest, so you're happiest in any way, shape or fucking form. No. That is not the aim of the game. But
it's also you're also taking advice from people that say, no, it's okay to look a certain way, but are not in the industry, or do not, in my opinion, do not have the credentials or the qualifications to be telling people how they should or shouldn't be living their lives. Having studied and gone to university and obtained a degree in the field, you know that the science is telling you otherwise. So for people, listening to people with no hands-on experience and that are not in the trenches is generally not advised, because sitting in a four-bedroom house in Fulham being paid by mummy and daddy, preaching a certain narrative just so that you can make yourself feel better and find some form of, I don't know, value in your life, is not helping
I'm not fucking
society.
saying, I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people, there's a general image on the fact that, yes, we are who we are. Do you know what I mean? We should accept all shapes and sizes in this world. We're like, as I always say, we are completely individual. We all have personal context to our lives and the way that we look and feel. But if you are avidly going out there, and there are a lot of professionals that do this, which sympathize far too much with people being very, very overweight, and saying that it's good.
But I
Do you know what I
guess
mean? It's
we,
good to do that is where I draw the line now,
you
because I
know, we
think
are
that
also, the industry and society in general have also glorified people that are essentially underweight. That are also like models and things like that, where people are childlike to a certain degree, and those people were glorified, and that in its own right, like Georgia said, with bodybuilding and someone's 3% body fat, that is not healthy. Everything is on a spectrum, on a statistical
in
outlying spectrum
in my
where,
opinion, it's probably unhealthier. Now, don't take it to be at 3% body fat, and I'm talking from a female perspective here
yeah, of
mainly,
course,
and the same
without a
with men.
doubt.
But like, than it is to be carrying some excess body weight,
Yeah,
because
I would agree with you on
now I'm
that
not
as well.
talking on the massive each end of the scale, but in general, for a female, you would have lost your period. You will, there's so many health. You lost hair.
Yeah, and like,
It.
you think you're treating yourself by like licking a Cadbury's bar. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't even get that far.
your
It's like an
your
energy drink.
perception on food and taste and things like that is so far gone.
Yeah, but I just think there's times in like as I've said, like if we go back to like why getting back on track and stuff, you've always got to realize what your why is. Do you know what I mean?
That is very true.
And your why changes. Like my why has changed so much, and I had so many people when I lost a lot of weight at the start. This is years ago now. But always you say, how do you do it? How do you stay like that? I can't seem to maintain it. What did you do? Like all of this stuff. I remember being like, I just did what I needed to do, because I guess I remembered what my why was, which was the fact that you're really, really unhealthy at the moment. And if you don't do something about it, you'll be dead by 30. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you'll continue get, because I'm one of those people where, unfortunately, for many years of my life, it was all or nothing. So, and that replicated into what I put into my body, how I behaved in my life. It was all or nothing. And I think when you go to getting back on track, or did all the way through my journey, if I'm talking from where I first started with having not only a drug issue but also being massively overweight, to where I am today, did things change? Fuck yes. Like, so much changed. Everything in my life variable has changed since then. But it's that whole thing of why have I done this? And I think, for me, it was the fact that I needed to become less unhealthy. And my whole aim was never to be walking around with the fucking six pack, do you know what I mean? And to do this and do that. It was just to get, I guess at the time, what you call is more normal. What people were more used to seeing in their eyes, do you know what I mean? Which was normal, do you know what I mean? Rather than the same as if you're underweight or overweight, you get criticised hugely. And do I think that's right? No, it's completely scarred
Yeah,
me for
you get
fucking life.
judged. You
But like,
do. Like people like to, get on their moral high horses, but there is a level of judgment. Having worked with both spectrums of clients, you get the same reaction when we used to have, we were trying to help ladies put on weight that were essentially underweight, and they would walk into the gym and people would always pass comments like, "Oh my word," and
how are you even exercising
yeah,
her
should you
when
be
she's so,
here?
yeah.
Shouldn't you be eating some pizza or some, really
But this is the thing,
moronic
like,
comments.
we are literally living a society like, I don't know, maybe this will make it resonate with you. We literally see so many people's opinions on a day-to-day basis. You're not even consciously aware of it. And those opinions can genuinely change or like break somebody's life in so many ways. Like, do I think, like, if I hadn't been told by a professional, do you know what I mean, that, you know, you're very, very overweight, like you're going to be on the verge of diabetes, that I would have maybe addressed it at that time? Potentially, because I got so much abuse from family, like literally about the size that I was, how I looked, how I could be ever have put myself in that position, why I wasn't just fucking normal. You know, those things literally stick with you, probably to this day, you know.
Yeah,
To
they're
this
always
day, I
gonna.
still think about it. And that's fucked. But it's, for me,
But just as
it's,
during, so you know, at that point in your life, it's a very, you know,
but this is all coming from
it's a
people
very
that are not necessarily educated
the most formative
individuals
parts
in.
of your life where you develop the vast majority of your personality is like between the teenage
Yeah, it's
years
so
into
fucked though
young
that literally it's
adult.
such the shortest period of your
So the
life, and
vast majority of the things that influence you and impact your life choices and decisions happen to you essentially when you're at your most vulnerable to a certain degree.
yeah, and I think that was always the same as like if you're bullied at school, that both me and Mark
How many
were.
times have you seen somebody who tells you that they're a very sporty person and they played first team rugby back in like 1984?
Yeah, I know, but I think we all live through that. I think if you've been like, I would say that at school, I wasn't in like I guess if you could do a high school chat, do you know what I mean? I wasn't in an unpopular group of people. I was the anomaly in a popular group. And I didn't have the best time at school, as I've mentioned previously. And I think you always have those ones that are super popular or dating the hottest guys. And if you honestly, like, it doesn't really stand for much when you grow into being like the ages that
You
we are
spend the
now, and you
vast
literally,
majority of your life to a certain degree as an adult, and like a very small percentage of your time in that
yeah, but
environment.
like their whole highlight, say if you've done absolutely fuck all, which is like some people I went to school with have absolutely done fuck all, like, you know, if you've done absolutely nothing in your life and you're just sat there like in the same
Yeah,
judgmental
then you look.
position that you were in before, then honestly your highlight reel was when you won a fucking netball game in
Yeah.
netball, or when you were crowned fucking some queen of whatever, or you know what I mean? People live by that. It doesn't mean that you're anything close to it now.
Were
Like, you
you? Did you have prefects at your school?
know. Yeah, clearly I was never one. Although I was made as a library prefect. You know, the only
Oh,
reason I was a
jeez.
library
Do you have?
prefect
Did you
is
have?
because you were allowed stickers and stamps, and so I could stamp the book. And I've obviously got like a
Were
weird stationery
you? Did you
obsession.
have head boys and head girls?
Yeah, I don't know if at primary school we did. Oh god, that's a very good.
Primary
But yes,
school.
of course we must have had. I wouldn't have even
Were
fucking
you a
known.
prefect at primary school?
No, I was a library. I was a library prefect. I don't think I even got to prefect. I was just like the library assistant, and it was only because they gave you stickers, and I could like laminate the books. That was literally a. Barring that, I don't really have many proud moments at school.
No.
No,
Okay.
I mean just in general, school's never really a vibe. Some people
It's a
loved
shame.
school.
I
You
love
liked
school.
school.
Yeah, I loved it. It was so much fun.
I wish you'd actually understand what it would have been like. Imagine if you'd gone to a co-ed school.
Oh, it would have been horrible.
It wasn't the boys that were
It
an
was
issue for
horrible.
me. It was the
Yeah, that's the
girls.
problem. It's the girls that are an issue. That
Yeah,
they're really
fucking.
catty and nasty. You know what I
You know
mean?
what? Like I mean,
Where the guys was it's just so much like the first 3 years at an all boys school. It's like everybody trying to figure out the pecking order, and after people have had a couple of punch ups, then everybody knows where the standing order is, and then everybody becomes mates. And by the time you leave high school, you're basically family.
Yeah, well, I guess that's also like dependent on where you're like fucking brought up. I think
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
you know, you could have the complete fucking opposite, which I would probably say is like none of them are family, like literally in any way,
Yeah.
shape, or form. I think also always, I know maybe this is another controversial thing I'm bringing up, but like everybody always says that like women are for women, like girls are for girls. I just don't agree
I
with that.
disagree.
Yeah, I just think I've dealt with so
Having
many.
spent the vast majority of my professional career around women, they
Oh my God, it's
are,
vile, some of the
yeah,
behaviour that women do. But again,
yeah.
you know, we've always had to prove ourselves against men. So there is something to be said that there is that
Yeah, I
in any environment. There's always that thing where you're heightened. You're either proving somebody in the sense of the way you look, or you want to be able to get a male attention should you be straight or that way inclined, or you're doing something to prove something. And it's statistically shown that if you're a woman in a male dominated environment, if you want to get somewhere, you've got to push people out the fucking way, because it's not as easy
yeah,
as being a man
yeah,
waltzing into a job. And
yeah,
it is that thing where normally they say that the CEOs that are women, of not every CEO but
yeah,
majority of women CEOs,
yeah.
especially
They're
in like the
hard.
US and worldwide, are horrible to work for, because they've
Mm.
literally had to, I get it, they've
Like you
had to
say, yeah,
fucking
they've got to
fight
fight
through,
their way
yeah,
through to the top.
through some
Yeah,
testosterone
listen,
fucking
I'm not
ridden
gonna
men.
say like, I mean, yeah, men can think a certain way,
Yeah, and women can
you
also be
know.
incredibly vile to be
There's a
around.
lot of, yeah, I mean, it's
None of my issue ever came from actually men in any way. It was
there's a lot
actually
of
always
people that hold very old school misogynistic viewpoints, and it's generally the older I had to label it,
Oh
but
my
I think
God,
it's the
that's a
older
big statement.
generation.
No, take yourself
No?
into another industry. In fact, you clearly haven't witnessed it. Take yourself to
Yeah.
the bloody gym, then you'll realise who fucking
Yeah,
is the
that's
pecking
also
order.
true. But you just need to, show it's all about
Why do
the
I
animal
have to
kingdom.
show when you wouldn't need to? Why do I have to show them my fucking dominance? Why do I need to act like a complete cunt to somebody? Do you know what I mean? I don't, and I shouldn't have
You
to,
have to.
for the
You have
sake
to
of the
be
fact of me
like a
being
female lioness, and you got to show them who's the boss.
Do you know what happens when you show a man a boss that already wants to be the
You are
boss?
not. You are stronger than 95% of all men. You just push them over.
No, but that's the thing. We're not resorting to physical violence, are we,
But
Mark?
sometimes that's the
If you're
only way
being
men
catcalled
learn.
on the street, no. What are you going to do, Mark? I don't know, because it's never happened to you. What are you going to do when a man, a group of three men, start following you in a van, shouting shit out? You're going to mouth back, which obviously you've learned as a woman you
Wow.
don't do, because what happens is they love it. It gets worse and worse and worse. Why are you laughing? That's why reason
No,
why you're all
just
twats. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't understand. You can't just always fight back at things. Do you know what I mean? You don't get your life
no.
sorted by fighting. Do you know what I mean? You get fuck all actually from fighting most of the time,
Not
unless you're a
fighting,
professional
but you gotta
boxer.
just.
No,
It's
yeah, but why do
about
we need to be like that sort of more
because
masculine approach
sometimes
of dominance? But why? Why can't we just live our lives without not having to prove to men that we're strong enough? Why do I need to do that? Why do I not need some ratty man that does fucking a shit bicep curl to take my handle in the middle of a set? Why do I need that? I don't. Why do I need to? Does anybody take your handles? No.
no, they
Exactly.
don't.
Why do I have to be like, mate, I'm using that, and then just fucking outright ignore you and just take it? Why
Because
do I
they
have to do
think
that?
that because you're a woman that you don't need it as much as a man does.
Yeah, but that's when it starts to be a fucking
But
problem.
when you show
What?
them.
Yeah, but this is the thing. What, show masculine dominance to the fact that I'm
Yeah, but that's
stronger than someone?
sometimes
I
that's how
don't need to
men
prove
learn.
shit to people, Mark. I don't need to live my life for fucking men around me to tell
That's
me
good
whether
to
or not
know,
I'm strong
Georgia.
enough or not. I don't need you to tell me I'm strong enough at all. I just
You are
need
very strong,
myself.
though. You are very
Thank you,
strong.
Mark. Do you know what I mean? I work hard at it. But there comes a point where you just think, fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, why do we constantly have to prove ourselves in environments? It's just not the case. Or you've got the choice of just being a woman fucking run company, literally. Which is fine. I think I'm all for that. There's plenty of very successful women only. And maybe actually, I think women really do get a lot of shit done. And I think this world would not run without us at all.
Preach, sister.
Preach. Do you not agree?
Yes.
Oh my God. Do you not agree with that? You don't
Um.
think that the world would run without women?
No, I think we would generally have, a large. This is a very controversial topic that I don't necessarily want to. I agree with you, but it's just this whole thing is just very. You know what I
What do you
mean?
mean it's not raw? It's having a voice over
Yeah,
something.
I'm too ignorant to have an opinion.
You're,
That's my
you're
honest
too
opinion. I'm
ignorant.
too ignorant to have an opinion. And that's the problem is so many people are willing to give their opinions on things when they're so ignorant on the topic that it's just like,
But
please
you
stop.
would happily think that you're too ignorant to give an opinion
No,
as to
it's
whether or
just so
not this
weird.
woman,
It's
this
so
world would
far
not
from
run the same without women.
it's so I see you as my equal, and I've treated all women like that, and that's the way I've been brought up to have respect towards women
What about
and
when you
value
cheated on your
them.
ex-girlfriend?
Yeah, well, that's a very different topic of conversation for another day, But, these things
Lol.
happen.
Yeah, this is what I mean, but you're not ignorant, Mark. At the end of the day, you can equally share your opinion. This world, statistically, would not
There's
run
too many
well.
opinions, and from people that have got no right
Who
in
would pack
passing
up
their
the
opinion.
house, Mark, properly and efficiently?
You did.
No,
You would,
but
and you do.
without women, without me, you've got two dogs that are girls. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean? What would your life be without your mum? Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't be
yeah.
here. You'd just be all rubbing each other's dicks. Do you know what I mean?
Circle jerking.
I feel like you've done it before for some fucking reason. You did go to an all boys
Or
school.
boys' school. We out of all the boys' schools in Zimbabwe, we went to the only one that was half
See, you're
decent.
not that fucking ignorant to be able to make comment on that, are you? Do you know what I mean? If it came to bros, do you know what I mean? You'd be able to
Yeah.
give your opinion. But when it comes to women,
No, all the circle jerking was done by Mavros and the crew, Falcon Boys.
oh, stop doubling fucking Mavros in here just because you fucking clearly wished you went to Falcon. Yeah, anyway. But no, I think we've highlighted and covered a vast array of topics today. But yeah, in general, I guess with us, you're always going to get life pretty straightforward in the sense of realistic rather than telling you that fairies and unicorns exist. I'm sorry if your child's listening to this, which I hope they're
Yeah.
not. Unicorns don't really exist, and neither does fairy dust.
Neither does Santa.
What the fuck? You can't end the podcast.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Santa only doesn't
How
exist.
did you feel
When
when
was
you
the last
found
time
out
you
that
bought me a Christmas
Santa?
present? Why can't you be fucking Santa Claus?
When was the last I bought you a birthday present and you didn't buy me one? And I bought you flowers for Valentine's Day and you didn't buy me anything?
Can
The
I just
list
point out what I
is
bought you? Bought you two pairs of fucking shoes.
to
Oh God,
which
let me
shoes?
just let you. August,
Right.
the
We're gonna
ones I've
we're
just
gonna
packed away in the numerous of boxes that I've had to pack away for you.
I carry the boxes.
Okay, when I just went in and bought you a fucking brand new iPhone. Oh, let's just talk about. No, we're not. We're not. You can just check my bank statements to how much I've bought Mark throughout the space of our
Yeah,
relationship.
but I deserve it because I'm a very good husband.
Okay, ending there. There is absolutely no gold stars for Mark currently.
I get 5 stars only.
No, 5 stars.
Yeah, like
No.
an Uber.
1 star. Right, okay. Until next time, episode 15 will be with you soon. Thanks for listening, guys.
Have a
Tune
wonderful
in
day.
next. Have a great day. Speak
Bye.
soon.